you know, it is what it is. You know who else is paid to play? Rad and Spacestation Gaming. And they have to put it to the test right now. Rad Esports, of course, quite a bit lower in the standings, whereas Spacestation Gaming, they need a very clean victory here to get themselves back up into the conversation for a potential top 2 finish in this region, with one more week to play, of course, which is next week. But let's talk about this very matchup and about these very teams. Starting with Spacestation Gaming, what do we want to see from them today?
Give Braun the ball, man. By that, of course, I mean Sugar Free. Let him go, let him free. Sugar Free, such a monster for this squad, you know, and his flexibility, I think, is really going to be highlighted this season with hero bans, right? Like you can't stop this guy as far as like forcing him off one hero onto another. It doesn't really feel like there's a change in his skill level across that whole layer of flexibility. So that's who my eyes are on, Johnny.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Kellen has actually showed a lot of versatility in the tank role and played a lot of different heroes. It could be the Ramatra, Sigma, Winston. We might even see some Ball being played, the Hazard, right? And besides Kellen, I think the rest of the team, they're just trying to play a pretty solid style. Put Sugar Free on his best heroes, whether it's the Tracer, the Genji, Seeker, playing the long-range hit scan for this team. For Spacestation, I think they so clearly overpower most of these teams that they just want to play like the default kind of compositions, right? They don't want to get too crazy with it in these matches because flat out they don't have to.
Yeah, and Rad fielding Chronic and King, Painkiller, Lep, and Zed. I mean, this is a team that's definitely punching up right now. I think they've thrived on their team play so far. But like you said, Johnny, the real challenge is going to be standing up in some of these smaller number engagements, some of these like 1v1s on the flank. That's going to be the challenge for them. Lep, I think, likely potentially risking a target ban on the Lucio with how much he plays the Lucio, how much that's really the style here for this squad. We'll see if the swaps come in and they're able to deal with something like Sugar Free's flankers. That's going to be really the key for them. But like you said, this is an uphill battle for Rad. I think if they can even make this close and competitive, they're probably feeling pretty decent about this match.
Yeah, and I feel like there might have been a small error there because I doubt Seb is actually going to be the support, probably Zed. It's going to be, both have Zeds in their name, but I think Zed is going to be the flex support there. Lep could be a potential main support that you could target ban if you wanted to get rid of the Lucio or one of those main support heroes, right? I think Painkiller could maybe try to throw a wrench in, you know, Spacestation's tools here. Maybe come up with the Mauga on one of these maps, right? But I think there's going to be an uphill battle for Rad in this one.
No doubt about that. SSG definitely considered a heavy favorite, but you know, it is a world of Overwatch and we have bans and of course map picks and bans as well, so everything is possible. Last game of the day though, we're ready for map set and hero bans, so Jake, Johnny, please take it away.
Happy to, Zoe. We're jumping into this match. We'll be opening here on Lijiang Tower. SSG opened with the Pharah ban, a hero that I think is often dominant here on this map. Kind of a quasi-protect for some of these Torb sim strats that have gained relevance recently. And the responsive Orisa ban, kind of interesting for Rad. I really haven't seen too much Orisa look too successful so far. So kind of a curious ban in my eyes. Maybe Rad have a read that I don't as far as where this series is going.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you'll come out playing some kind of Mauga here. I think the Pharah ban makes sense as well. Like I said, I think if you're SSG, you just want to play straight up, right? And getting rid of this aerial threat on stages like Garden, for example, or Night Market, that is just going to mean that you're playing more of a straight up game. And that is when Sugar Free and Seeker, they can just do their thing, excel. And you can kind of win just by the nature of how good your roster is, right? So it's going to be an interesting matchup. We're starting off here on Garden though, Jake.
Seeker hovering the Torb. Johnny, call it right now. Is he playing Torb? Low key could work.
No, it could work, but you know, let's just get Seeker on like the Sojourner or something and let Seeker cook. You asked me to make a call. So
yeah. That's a good call. That's the honest call. It's like probably true. I'm just hopeful. I'm just baited, but I'm down to be baited.
To be honest, because I know you would love to see the Sojourn, but it's.
Oh yeah, baby. Yeah, it does.
Well, it's the meta, right? What can I say?
See what Seeker can work on this Torb. Challenging the off angle. Turret already down. Chronic finds one instantly. Beautiful pick off for Rad. And Spacestation going to be trying to fight this back. Down numbers, but losing the Juno. I mean, that's about as bad as it gets for an opening pick. So Chronic securing this mid fight for his team. Putting some wind in their sails. They'll need a strong start to take down a juggernaut like SSG. And Chronic was able to deliver.
Yeah, I mean, you lose a Juno, that is so much healing that you're not going to win an extended fight, but you don't really have one of these heroes that could find an immediate pick, either a counter pick to kind of keep you in the fight. So, quick reset, and Seeker swaps over to the Sojourn. Who would have thought? Who would have seen this coming?
Yeah, on the retake, I think Torb is pretty weak, pretty difficult to walk up. Right now, Kellen trying to force something, trying to take some space as he moves into this off angle. Chronic with the rail charge, though, threatening some opportunity here. Seeker takes a risk walking up, takes a rail, getting totally pressured, but the support is really coming in, and Painkiller has overstepped here. Beautiful backup from Spacestation Gaming. They do lose one, but the trades are coming in. An over-aggressive dive from Rad Esports is punished, cleaned up, and a very late death for Chronic. Sugar Free not even forcing the kill. It's going to be a nice stagger, point flip for Spacestation, and that's really the most difficult fight of the map, Johnny, is retaking with no ultimate advantage, and yet Spacestation are able to get it done with a masterful kite.
Yeah, Rad just fully commits there. I mean, Lep was just in turn with the speed as well, helping out Painkiller to get over there, but I think that is one of those scenarios where maybe you're scared that you're committing the Nemesis mode early on, and then Spacestation can work around that, the fact that that cooldown is down, but it's an overcommit from Rad, and now Spacestation, they have point control, and they're building towards this Sun Barrier from Biz.
Yeah, see if Rad are able to get anything done. Sugar Free and Bliss fighting together on the flank, taking this 2v2 can be critical as far as cracking open these defensive holds. Now the push comes in across the bridge. Overclock available for Chronic. See if he elects to pop it here. Bliss with a very early sound barrier responds to that orbital ray, but still able to somehow kill through the orbital ray. Rad are committing heavily though into the backline, and these ults maybe are just enough to get it done. It's only Kellen and Sugar Free left to hold down the point. Almost assuredly not going to be enough here. And Rad gets it done, but it was pretty expensive, right? In the end, that's 3 ults for 1. That beautiful pick off onto Zed, I think, was critical in forcing Rad to commit with more ultimates. Well done by them, and that's still going to put SSG in a decent spot economy-wise, get deeper into this map.
It is. I feel like if you're Rad, you just have to double down on the aggression at this point. You know CJ is going to sit on this orbital ray. You just want to go early with the Sun Barrier, but instead, here comes Spacestation taking some control.
Yeah, instant burst through CJ with the sound barrier. Sugar Free responding with a blade of his own. Going to catch Chronic, no dash left. Now Sugar Free back to the fight. Kellen all in committing. This is going to be likely for SSG's round, but it seems to be enough with the assistance. Oh, King, hold on, does win that duel against Sugar Free. Possibility for King to try and get and install this point. He really wants to do that. Able to hold on to the objective for a few seconds longer. Not sure the support is going to be there. And in the end, SSG get it done, get the flip. But that late death onto Sugar Free is buying a bit of a tempo lead for Rad as they charge right back into the map. Seeker tries to stifle it with an overclock, forces deflect out of Genji, connects onto Chronic, and now it's a kill zone here in the small room. Health is so low for Rad Esports. Spacestation cleaning them up. Well done, bending back, but Seeker's overcharged, just too much here.
Yeah, Rad maybe finding a moment there, they think they could push up, but the overclock, it's just so much damage output that it forces a rotation. Kellen collides, put down the Ravenous Vortex, and that is going to get some picks there from Spacestation Gaming onto Rad, securing the fight. So 80% and ticking here, no ults from either side actually. Going to be a bit of a neutral fight, heading into this, one of these last fights in the round potentially.
Yeah, this is what you want for Spacestation. Almost assuredly going to be able to get up to that 99%. Rad has to be patient, has to fight it out, but looks like a very aggressive dive from Bliss and the rest of Spacestation. They're not interested in playing it slow, not forcing the point. They're diving in, looking to get the cleanup. A kill on this Juno would be critical, but she's just barely dancing away, and now Kellen is caught in a very awkward spot as the flip starts to come in. Kellen, though, fighting both supports. Not necessarily easy to clean up this Ramatra in a small room, hoping to just draw enough attention that his team's able to win elsewhere. Painkiller trying to hold the point, has to be forcing the ultimate to stay alive here. Bliss is cleaned up. Now Spacestation on kind of the wrong side of the map here, could be in trouble. Kellen looking to die super late here, and the round is starting to look really scary. Kellen trying to stay alive, but I think he's dead to rights here to Rad as they start to potentially force what could be the final fight here. They still have an ultimate online. Spacestation have to regroup, have to play for this overtime stall. Got 4 big ultimates coming in online, so Rad needs to find pickoffs very quickly in this engagement.
You should go early here. You should just try to put some pressure onto this SG. Sugar Free is going to get the touch. We have support elements coming up from both sides here. Overclock goes out from Chronic, and they find a pick on the Sugar Free.
Yeah, and that may just be enough. The second on to Seeker. No DPS available. Spacestation trying to fight out, but they're not able to touch the point. Oh, that's painful. And the ultimates were just percentage points off for Spacestation, but you called it, Johnny. Rad found that window to get aggressive, to force things to happen. King with the cleanup. King winning a couple of critical 1v1s there against Sugar Free. I think going into this match, you would have said Sugar Free, the stronger player on the Genji, but King really coming up big and winning important duels for his squad here.
Yeah, we know King can be really effective on the Genji as well. It's such a great Genji player, but I feel like when we go back to that previous round, we have to address that spawn push by SSG, Obviously, coming up on closing out the round themselves, they acknowledge we can push and put pressure onto Rad, make it difficult for them to touch. But Painkiller gets the touch, the Juno critically stayed alive in spawn, and then you come back with those ultimates. So Rad goes up 1-0 on this Legion tower, and King now on the Venture out of all heroes.
Oh, Lep gets picked off just a little bit too close there, gets punched down by Kellen, and Rad with the swap to this much brawlier variant of the comp is being punished brutally right now. Kellen does drop, maybe going a little bit too deep past what his supports could sustain, and with how early those picks came in, I wonder Rad could be looking to get a recontest here. No tank able to hold the point. Painkiller running right back in, charging into Bliss on the Lucio, gets caught. Hacks come in from Chronic, and that death from Kellen is really gonna bite despite the opening picks from Space Station. Rad get right back into it, bring out the Genji again for King, and they're stabilized here, holding this forward choke point. Chronic grabbing a couple of health packs, securing this position further, and the Sombra looked kind of awkward in the first fight, but Seeker, the opening onto Kiriko and losing the support. That's so much of your heals. Rad have to force something ultra aggressive here to come back into the round, but Seeker, he knows it's coming. He kites very far back. Supports are very ready for this, and while they're cleaning up the forced push from Rad, they're capping the point. Space Station, well executed off the back of that pickoff from Seeker.
Yeah, that just can't happen. That just can't happen, and that's why Seeker gets paid the big bucks, finds an early pick with a railgun headshot onto Zed. And in a man advantage like that, like you said, Jake, in those scenarios, you just kind of have to push in. You have to find a counter pick. Rad not able to find it, and now they're on the back foot once again. They're building towards this Kitsune Rush, but CJ building toward an orbital ray himself.
Yeah, and Sugarfree close to that blade. The early DPS swaps from Rad are costing them in the economy game right now. They're trying to bait some kind of aggression, but Space Station are happy just to hold it down, heal up. Zed, let's see if he looks to go for the Kitsune Rush. Almost dies, but looks like baiting that attention is going to pay off as maybe an overextension from SSG as they're trying to stay alive. Chronic, oh, what's going on there? In trouble, gets maybe DC'd. Oh, the pause. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
That's tough as well. You use the Kitsune Rush, you get so much control onto that, like, White Room kind of side, right? And it was a great timing as well because you're able to get that Kitsune Rush out before the support timings from SSG. And then Chronic, we can only assume disconnects from that fight. Oh, that would have been such a critical fight for Rad there, I feel like, on Control Center. And especially because you're already up 1-0 in this first control map.
Yeah, the round is looking pretty scary right now with that Kitsune Rush. It feels like, you know, that initial burst of tempo was there, but like you said, you know, without the burst from a Sojourn Rail that could have come in, they weren't able to find that instant pick. And, you know, I think their players are standing on top of Chronic's head right now, staring at him. So, yeah, not a great place to reconnect back into.
Oh, yeah, they definitely snuffed Chronic out. And even if Chronic gets back into the lobby here, right? I mean, Chronic is going to go back to spawn, select a new hero, and it's probably going to be a Rad from SSG in that fight scenario. So that is a tough thing for Rad. I mean, you hate to see it. Really, what else is there to say?
Yeah, the economy game is looking good for SSG. They backed away from that. Kitsune Rush going to repush with a few strong ultimates. But in the end, you know, Rad are up 1-0. So in the end, Control Center can be playing with a bit of house cash. With, you know, they tried to bring out that tricky Venture Sombra strat, which didn't really work out, despite, you know, them ending up getting the flip and controlling mid. They have switched back to the Sojourn Genji, taking that bread and butter mirror duel. Curious to see if they're going to be able to bring this round back. Hopefully, Chronic's able to get back into the action soon. But I mean, for Rad, opening the series with a round win is a big tip for them, right? This is a team that is the heavy underdog, with a lot of teams calling SSG one of the best teams in the region right now. You know, to even open with a round win, even if you do lose Control Center, I think you know that this is possible, that this can be done, that this series is winnable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have to give some credit to Painkiller for the Ramatra play. I think the rest of the team has followed up quite nicely on Painkiller's Ramatra play, getting the Nemesis form out, and then you're able to speed in, secure some of these early frags. That has been the recipe for success here for Rad, of course, and then, you know, like we said, the support timing as well. They've been winning some of these early fights, both rounds, in fact. They established point control early, and that has gained them some additional fruit, you know, later on in the map there as well. So it's been some good early signs from Rad here in a matchup where they are the underdog against SSG.
Yeah, King and Chronic, I think, are also a big element of that. King able to win some duels. We're getting back into the action. Chronic is DC'd, and so this fight looks really good for Space Station Gaming. The flip coming in for Rad, though, it's going to be nice. They're going to be able to make some objective progress here as they look to back off, wait for Chronic to get back into the team fight. Space Station have almost all of their ultimates coming to bear right now. They're gonna pop just the orbital ray, want to clean this up with only the one. Painkiller though recommits, doubles down with that annihilation. Could be enough, forces the responsive ult from Kellen, and now it's the big ult dump. Everybody is popping everything. Seems like it will be enough with Rad split, forced into corners. In the end, economy-wise though, a decent fight for Rad. They're able to get a little bit of point charge. They're able to force a lot of ultimates, and the retake looks possible for them. It's going to be Blade Beat versus Blade Beat.
Yeah, it's a great fight for Rad there, considering the circumstances of Chronic being back in spawn. Of course, you're able to get 3 big ultimates out in the Overclock, the Annihilation, and the Orbital Ray. So like you said, wouldn't be surprised to see an early Blade Beat here from SSG when they find some decent positioning.
Yeah, at the same time, it's hard to go first in this mirror though, because that beat can kind of defend both ultimates. Seeker pops Blade, forces the beat. Bliss looking to have a much stronger counter sound barrier. Now Rad swinging back, trying to stay alive, but the perfect time beat from Bliss is going to just overwhelm them. The fact that they're able to kill Lep as well means it's difficult to retreat, difficult to fully reset.
90%
and Seeker
here.
finds another.
Yeah, coming up on the end of the round here, and King forced to pop the blade. Contest is going to come through here, but I mean, you dropped said you don't have the Kitsune Rush and SSG. They are just going to clean up this control center. What felt like a really good start for Rad here on this round, it's going to be SSG tying up 1-1 here on Lijiang Tower, and we head towards Night Market for our final and third round.
Yeah, really well played from SSG, opening with the blade. I think with no genuine intention to actually commit. Like that was full on a bait for the sound barrier. Lep, I mean, does the mechanical response, which is beating the blade. It's like, you know, pretty much what you're supposed to do. But then, you know, that's just so choreographed from SSG. They had that completely pre-planned in sequence.
Yep, and that's why they're one of the best teams in the region. Delaying that beat, having a better sound barrier is going to be the ultimate difference in a fight where both teams sit on the same kinds of ultimates.
What is that, Ramatra? Wait, hold on.
A little T-pose. A little T-pose there.
What is going on with Ramatra right now?
Bro, it's popping off.
Bro, chill, Ramatra, chill.
Okay, so a bit of a straightforward matchup here again. Similar comes from both teams here, and like I said, this is SSG. They like playing these default kind of compositions. They don't want to spice things up too much, and this is when Sugar Free can really work on the Genji. This is when Seeker can find the picks on the Sojourn.
Yeah, this is a critical opening fight. Painkiller taking a really wide position here. Gonna force SSG, but SSG, I think, happy to take point control here as a point is just about to open. Painkiller's gonna have to get in and force a contest here, but should be a slightly advantaged position for SSG as they're able to kind of hold this point down defensively. Kellen with a much better barrier, holding the point really, really well here. Seeker trying to get in. Enemy rail charge, though, is available. And super deep dive from Painkiller straight into the back line. Support comes in, though, for Seeker. He just barely slips away with his life. No, Lep finds the connection, gets the cleanup. And despite the point flip going towards SSG, Rad find the pickup, starting to reset their health bar, looking to get maybe aggressive in a few moments. Lep finds a second here on the Lucio, getting active, making plays. Kellen tries to force a counterplay of his own, knows he needs to change the tempo here. Looks like he is just going to get out with his life. And well done by Lep, finding the follow-up for Painkiller's aggression.
I mean, we need a replay of what happened there. It's great teamwork from Rad, you know. Painkiller puts a lot of pressure onto SSG, especially gets close. I think Bliss was working the off angle as well with Sugar Free, so you don't have that Lucio available to help immediately, right? But it's good recognition from Rad. Now SSG trying to go for a bit of a retake here. Ravenous Vortex comes out, pushes Sugar Free back, drops kind of low here, but can't quite find the frag. We're getting close to these support ultimates for Rad here if we can just survive a little bit longer.
Yeah, repush from Bliss and Sugar Free. They win the 2v2 on the flank. It was closely contested, but the help from CJ pushes them over the top. And now the point pressure comes in immediately from Bliss. Good priorities here from this Lucio Genji as they keep the flank pressured, force Rad Esports to fall back. Sojourn drops low, dies before Orbital Ray. No cleanup and left. Does he really want to beat this? Does find the Lucio though, or the Genji rather. Maybe he is going to recommit to this. CJ forces an Orbital Ray of his own. Left responding with the beat and the annihilation. CJ so low, does eventually take down the later beat from Bliss, but will it be enough? Painkiller does end up getting cleaned, and now Rad desperate, no tank available to hold the point. They've got to make it happen with just the DPS and supports. Trades coming in, but Kellen is just running rampant. No force to protect him. That's 3 for Kellen in the fight. And despite some beautiful stagger fighting from Rad, I think in the end this is going to be a cleanup. Lep dancing as well as he can. Ends up dancing alone there, last on the point as SSG get the flip, take control. It was expensive ultimate-wise, but both teams committed to that fight.
Yeah, but a lot of cap going the way of Rad as well. I mean, you got 68% here, and yes, both teams actually committed some ultimates here. We have both teams coming up on the Overclock and the Dragon Blade, so curious to see how both teams utilize that. Bliss working the off angle here, just trying to get some poke in, but what is Seeker going to do with this Overclock? That is the question.
All swords, no shields in this team fight. Seeker super low, gets dove on, but King not able to get the connection. Tried to get it done without the blade. This time it's Sugar Free pulling the blade. Finds two, doesn't want to tango with the Lucio while riding in the spawn. And it does cost both ultimates, but a 2-for-1, decent for SSG to hold on there. King does have an uncontested blade here, but sometimes when blade's your only ultimate, it can be difficult to really get in there, really find the connection. A lot of pressure on King as well. Lep looking to assist this blade almost assuredly as they go force right onto Kellen, diving straight past him to the point, but Seeker's getting picks.
Yeah, Zed goes down, and the team is just gonna fall from here. King pops the Dragon Blade, but like you said, like who can realistically shut down here? I mean, you get picks on the damage though. Lep finds another boop onto Seeker to finish him off. I mean, they're kind of working this, but is it going to be enough? Kellans finishes things off with the Nemesis mode.
Yeah, the instant pick from Seeker is so big, right? Finding the Juno, that's really most of your heal throughput. Now, Rad, they really need to regroup. They're a little aggressive here, trying to farm some ults. Quite greedy here with no DPS alive, but they won't be punished for it. The supports get them out of trouble, but Kellen wants to push this tempo swing. He's going to the spawn right here. He's got an Annihilation. Dive comes in with Sugar Free, finding one, trying to get more onto the backline. They're kiting Kellen, but who's on the point? 99%. Force for Genji, but Lucio, the two supports ganging up on a little poor Genji on the point. Kellen right here in the spawn, keeping them crushed, and absolutely no space for Rad as Spacestation. What a cleanup. Scrappy Li Jiang Tower right there. I mean, I think Rad have some things they can feel pretty good about. They're able to force SSG into those difficult, challenging engagements, but at the same time, SSG coming out on top there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it came down to those final two fights there where, I mean, first of all, Seeker and Sugar Free, they combined for a beautiful Overclock and Dragon Blade combo, finish off the backline. But then, you know, it's a pretty risky push, I feel like, from Rad going coast side and trying to get towards the point. You know, SSG, they're going to handle that pretty expertly. They're going to drop the Ravenous Vortex, and they just killed the backline. They find a pick on the Zed there to kind of wrap things up in the very final fight of the game, and then you push at the spawn, of course. Again, make it hard for the enemy team to touch the point. So SSG, I feel like on pure fundamentals, they're getting a lot of these fight wins, and it's not enough for Rad to contest and have a chance to win this Li Jiang Tower.
Yeah, still, like, I mean, this map really portends a closer match than I would have expected, right, going into this on paper with Rad making this competitive, making this very, very close. I feel both Lucio's also having a huge impact in this series, right? Like with this comp, I feel Lucio's able to make the difference, booping these Genjis on critical blade plays, you know, finding kills of their own in the chaos. So Lep and Bliss, I think, is kind of a hot mirror match to be watching so far with. I wonder, like, now that I think about this, are you really going to ban Lucio? We got a player like Bliss on your team who's also so good at it. We could see a lot more of this Lucio mirror, and I think that could continue to be impactful as the series goes on.
Yeah, 100%. We'll have to see what the teams really go for there. Again, SSG, I feel like they're so comfortable on a lot of different compositions though, so I don't think they'll have much of a problem with Bliss going away from the Lucio, but you know, it could shut down Lep pretty often. We've seen Lep on a little bit of Juno at times, we've seen Lep on the Brigitte, but I do feel like Lucio is a big staple for Rad in their kind of composition and their player strength, so we'll have to see how the bans turn out here. I have seen from SSG in the past, they'd like to ban some of these Mauga heroes, Torbjorn, they want to shy away from those silly heroes, of course, so yeah, we'll have to see what happens in map 2.
Yeah, curious. I think the bans are really an interesting way to see how the teams reacted to that map 1. I mean, honestly, if I'm Rad coming out of map 1, I feel like you got to stay confident. Like, you got to feel like that map really could have gone our way. This came down to a few small moments, a few close team fights. You think about that disconnect from Chronic. I mean, I think you can kind of feel like, let's just run it back. Like, we can win this. This is, you know, winnable for us as they look to pick the next map. I'm kind of curious where I think if you want to force just like, you know, the same thing again, we could see maybe like a Suravasa. I feel like a Flashpoint could be a decent look for, you know, once again running this Lucio brawl style. If you feel like, as I do, that Rad really could win that mirror match.
Yeah, we have seen a pretty unique defense from them on Havana, where King actually opts for the Pharah on defense as well. So, you know, maybe that is something they could cook up with. We've seen a few more different looks from them. I don't think that Rad has a big issue with playing the Torb either. So a map that could favor the Torbjorn is going to be quite interesting what we're going to see from them in this upcoming map selection.
Yeah, I do think you kind of want to stay away from maybe like the super dive heavy maps. I feel like that's maybe your strongest suit for SSG. If we could get like Kellen on the Winston, Sugar Free on the Tracer, you know, that's the map where I'm going to be feeling strongest for SSG. And I think if you do win a map for Rad, you're going to have to face that down. So maybe you look to pick something like Escort. They go with Esperanza though. So maybe this is another map where I think this like Lucio brawling style, Lucio Genji, very, very viable. Curious to see if SSG want to target those for bans and maybe force like a Wrecking Ball style here that I think they'll be much more comfortable on average across the squad.
Yeah, Painkiller likes to play these brawl heroes. We've seen Painkiller on the Ramatra, of course, early on, but also, you know, the Hazard, the Mauga as well. These are picks we've seen them come out with. So maybe we'll shy away from the dive tanks, like you said, a little bit there, but maybe an opportunity for SSG to punish the tank of Rad going into this second map. So bans are gonna come out. We're gonna see Rad ban Wrecking Ball, and SSG, they're going to ban that Torbjorn. Like, this is something they've done before earlier in the stage as well.
Yeah, I think banning the Torb does block this like really strong bunkering style that we've seen counter the Hazard, where, you know, this Torb sim just don't care about Hazard blocking. They just keep shooting him and they don't die. And that tends to work really well. The ban on the Wrecking Ball, I think, is really smart from Rad. I think very likely SSG would have gone that direction if the ball wasn't banned. Potentially a Hazard mirror on the cards here. That'd be my expectation. Maybe these teams have different looks, but with those bans, could be Ramatra, could be Hazard, and maybe like that slower pace style, just a run back from map 1, still very available.
I mean, honestly, all this talking, Jake, and we might just see them run it back in terms of compositions. You know, I wouldn't be too surprised to see Painkiller on either the Hazard, like you said, but also just, you know, back on the ramp perhaps. It is a comfort that suits both teams here.
Yeah, and in the end, I'm curious if Sugar Free will go for the Genji or if it will be a Tracer. I think this map opens up a little bit more versatility as far as like what direction you want to go. I think with the Ramatra comp, you kind of value that team fighting potential that Genji offers over Tracer's flexibility. But it looks like generally a mirror right now if both teams stick with their comps. But this is a map, Johnny, where you'll be happy to know people don't generally pick troll heroes because the actual hero swap is very far from the spawn door. So you generally actually pick your real comps before the door opens on this map. So key difference is really just going to be on support.
That is the most like small detail possible that actually does make a difference. So I'll keep that in mind for future spawn door speculation, Jake.
I'm curious to see this Hazard mirror, right? I think this is one where both teams, you know, it does shake the map of the game up, despite the comps being relatively similar to the last map. I mean, Ramatra is a much more stable frontlining hero that wants a lot of team support, where Hazard plays much more flexibly, has a lot more options, and a much more open-ended brawly style, the ability to really dive in and catch flankers. Chronic with an opening onto CJ, though, that should just be the fight. Painkiller finds Seeker, and hold on, SSG just crumbled.
I mean, again, like this feels like it's repeating in the first map as well. We saw Rad, they win these first fights, and seems to be a bit of a problem here for SSG, losing these early fights, you know. It's the very first fight on push, so not going to be a huge major issue, but you're able to set up in the choke early, perhaps with a Hazard wall. You gave Chronic the high ground now on the Sojourn. This gives Rad the positioning they want here to maybe set up for a pretty good second fight.
Yeah, I will say Chronic has been really sharp. He's here on the high ground. Kellen knows he's got to deal with this Sojourn, pushing him back into the corner. Hold on, wait, tons of pressure here. Kellen, this is a beautiful opening to the fight. He looks to catch and dive in yet deeper, but going a little bit too deep there. Yeah, overextending, and Chronic on his back. But all those resources into the Sojourn, and that allows SSG to win the fight elsewhere. Painkiller just tried to get out, trying to stay alive, get to the help of his Kiriko. Looks like this corner is going to be just safe enough for him. And without Kellen, it's hard for SSG to make much more progress.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have a Hazard here. The Hazard is so pivotal to these fights that without that frontline pressure, Rad are just going to win the remnants of that fight by default. And now they have a Kitsune Rush to put some more momentum on here.
Yeah, and Kellen just trying to stay alive. The Kitsune, too much to fight through. King barely staying alive with the help of the Kitsune Bros. Oh, just barely too late. Bliss gets the cleanup before that Suzu's able to land, and now Painkiller just trying to hold the bot down. Beautiful wall, though, by Kellen. Cuts off the heal, and now bot looks to be stolen for SSG. They're pulling this fight away. Rad gonna reset through that stairwell. We're gonna see probably another refight on this midpoint. Both teams licking their wounds.
Yeah, a bit of a timing here where CJ doesn't have this orbital ray, but I think they're going to be quite satisfied just sitting back, build this flex support ultimate. It's going to be a big swing when it comes to momentum in this next fight. Rad pushes earlier. Painkiller takes a lot of damage, actually. Dedicates so hard to this fight.
Yeah, they dove in, tried to catch that timing. Missile comes in, but King just barely gets around the wall, and it's a 2-for-1. Blade comes out from King, wants to clean this up, forces onto Sugar Free, does get the cleanups. Now CJ as well in the crosshairs, will be finished off, so well done from Rad. This unbridled aggression has looked really solid on the back of the Kiriko comp. And CJ, these orbital rays, I mean, kind of time and time again, Rad have had the focus fire to burn targets down through the orbital ray.
Yeah, I mean, they forced the issue from CJ because, you know, you go early with the dive there and CJ isn't ready to drop the orbital ray fast enough, and they find the pick before it even starts healing the rest of the team, right? So, I mean, they're going for it again. They're just pushing.
And it's paying off. Chronic finds one before he gets shut down, but that may just be enough here as Rad looking very strong on the cart. Painkiller pushing ahead, denying this strong high ground position to his opponents. And SSG reset once again, even with an overclock committed that fight. They find absolutely nothing. Rad don't even necessarily have to force too much here. They've made a lot of progress. They could have liked to fall back and defend. It looks like they will play for that choke point. Looks like they should have a really solid position here. SSG trying to push in before the setup is really stabilized. Maybe they'll be able to do it, but so far no targets for Sugar Free. Blade pops, immediate beat response from Left, and Sugar Free looks like he is going to be able to survive. A better beat from Bliss. Kellen is still low under this beat charge though. It's definitely a winnable fight for Rad. No cleanups come in from the better beat. Kellen isolated, alone, cleaned up, and now Lucio trapped in the corner with a hazard. That's not where you want to be, right next to the spike wall. And once again, Rad battled back and just crushed them in the deathmatch engagement.
I mean, I'm loving the way Rad are playing this. They fall back, they survive some of these ultimates, they wait out the sound barrier, they wait out the Dragon Blade, they kite successfully. Rad are playing beautifully right now, and they got a Kitsune rush. 100 meters already for Rad, and they can fall back, set themselves up with good positioning, and drop the Kitsune rush when they feel like they can really go for the backline.
Yeah, Spacestation really would love to get that Kitsune out and just kite away. They want to be careful overcommitting. Dash force from Sugar Free has to back to his team. On top of the Kitsune, though, they are speeding out. Looks like they will get out of this, so it's a nice kite away from the Kitsune. It's not really getting any value. Spacestation don't lose any meaningful objective progress there, so really well done on this engagement. They try to catch one in the Sojourn, force them away on the spike wall. That's going to kind of destabilize this front line, though. A lack of support here. Targeting down now Painkiller for Kellen as he knows he's created a bit of an advantage here on the front line. Wall as well, blocking Chronic's attention. Trying to get out of there is Painkiller, regroups to the team. Now both teams relatively stabilized. Orbital Ray forced. Is this going to be enough to keep these targets alive? No, not quite. Chronic finds one, but a triple catch from Kellen. Finds 3 on this ultimate, and that should be enough for the massive cleanup to come through. Just Seeker goes down in the engagement, and that's the way you need to fight for SSG. Sure, these aggressive dives are going to come in. Sure, you're going to find picks for Rad Esports, but you've got to be able to win out in the longer fight.
Yeah, and at that time as well, Rad, they obviously backed off and they had the superior positioning, having the high ground, but they didn't quite have that initiation tool. They didn't have any ultimate available, and so SSG, they take their time and secures that fight. Now here though, Rad, they have a Dragon Blade available if they want to pop it. Spacestation coming up on damage support, damage ultimates of their own. So a bit of a poke battle going on. King dashes in quite deep here, setting something up.
Oh, early Blade. I'm not sure he's going to be able to find much here. CJ a little bit alone, but too much pressure on the King. He can't find the commitment there. Sugar Free, though, tried to find a Blade of his own and got instantly bursted down by Chronic. Seeker tries to pour good pressure on here, but is this good money after bad? Just enough damage to burn down the hazard before the beat comes through, but Rad look to still clean this up without the help of their tank. Lep getting in the mix once again, surrounding this hazard with the help of the Genji. And SSG just... Yes, they pop ultimates, but it seems so desperate with Sugar Free getting bursted by Chronic before the fight has really begun.
Yeah, Lep with a ton of value there from the sound barrier, wins that fight successfully. And I mean, pressure is on SSG here. You're down 102 meter to 44 with 3.5 minutes remaining. You got a bit of a neutral fight here, but you have no flexible element. There's no orbital ray available. How are you going to set up and win some of these fights? Rad are pretty comfortable with the downpour, the Kitsune rush, and the overclock at their disposal.
And Chronic has been really sharp today, Johnny, and with Overclock here, he's looking for his window, trying to find something. In the end, though, Rad, they don't necessarily have to force aggression here. They might suspect that Bliss already has the sound barrier. They might just want to play this one slow. So far, that's what they're going for. Painkiller, though, finds Seeker, traded by Lep, or onto Lep, I should say. Kitsune rush on the cart. Sound barrier counters for SSG as they try to redouble down onto this engagement, but Chronic still has that overclock. Doesn't even necessarily feel that he needs it in this engagement. Comms coming in from the team that they are getting a lead here even without the ultimate. Painkiller behind the spike wall, has to block, just trying to stay alive and regroup. Spacestation still trying to fight. CJ lived long enough to get his regen, and looks like it's going to be a stabilization. Both teams not wanting to force the issue, not wanting to really commit. As Rad, they know they have a big lead here. They don't want to take too big of a risk.
Yeah, really taking their time here. Painkiller has this downpour. Could be crucial for the Orbital Ray here, but a lot of pressure early. King goes down, and before Rad even has an opportunity to really try to go for some kind of engage, CJ is going to drop the Orbital Ray, clean up the rest of this fight, and finally, I feel like SSG, they kind of stabilize here, just winning one fight with only the Orbital Ray being used. This could now set them up for getting some more value with Sugar Free's Dragon Blade coming up. Callan has a downpour of his own and establishing this forward positioning. If you're SSG, you need to start racking up some back-to-back fight wins here if you really want to contest Rad's pretty impressive length so far.
Getting the checkpoint before the fight has begun, though, is pretty nice. I don't think SSG are going to mind being on this opponent's side of the map as they stabilize with some help on the flank. Sugar Free going to be forced out of this side angle. Chronic finally finds the window to pop Overclock, but not able to connect onto anything here, though. Oh, downpour assists onto Kellen, not able to get out, and finally Chronic gets the connections they've been looking for. Should be a nice cleanup here. Does cost the life of a hazard, is going to mitigate some of that snowball potential, but in the end, Rad get the cleanup they were hoping for. They get the cart back through to the mid. They're going to take away that forward spawn from SSG. But SSG, I think, can feel pretty okay about this. In the end, they did get that capture. They did get a meaningful amount of objective progress. They're going to have to weather a very difficult storm, though. Double support ultimate plus Blade is an incredibly potent combo in the Hazard comp. This is going to be the test for SSG. If they can pass this, maybe the map is possible, but this is really Rad's opportunity to take a map in the series.
Kellan taking a lot of poke early. Kitsuna's going to come out from Zed here as well. Kellan needs to survive here, otherwise SSG find themselves in a difficult position. They're just trying to force the issue here. Kellan goes down, Bliss to follow as well. Overclock comes out from Seeker, trying to come back into this fight, but I fear it's already a bit too late here. Seeker's going to pop this Overclock and get no value, and suddenly Rad Esports, with 45 seconds to go, they just have to weather this storm. No support ultimates available for SSG heading into this arguably final fight here, so Sugar Free, a lot of pressure on him to get some value with this Dragon Blade, but left past the sound barrier to counter.
Yeah, I don't think Blade is going to be very meaningful in this fight. Forced Blade from Sugar Free, gets no response to beat out from Lep, though. Lep holds his nerve really well done in this fight. It looks like King is just getting way more done with the Blade, and that's beautiful from Lep, right? He called Sugar Free's bluff completely, held the nerve on the beat, and now they have it for what could be the true final fight of the game. Kellen dying late here, most likely needs to get saved. No, can't quite get it done. Still, the close spawn makes this pretty scary for Rad. Committing right that close to the enemy spawn, really risky. So Lep, I think, is saving this beat to close out the game in the round. Spacestation want to push as little as possible here, sustaining the OT, but Painkiller wants to force the issue with the advantage. Bliss goes down. This should be the final nail in the coffin. Left sound barrier comes in the final moment. Downpour comes in, and yeah, Over the Way is not close to enough to keep you alive through this level of pressure, and that's Rad Esports evening up the series 1-1. There's got to be hype in the comms right now, Johnny.
I mean, that is such an impressive map. I feel like throughout for Rad, the fact they're able to close that one out, I think they did play that so well in the end there as well. They get a late pick onto Callan on the hazard and recognize, well, Callan just went down. We have a good 15 to 20 seconds here now where we can just regroup. We can wait until we get all 5 of us, and then we can re-engage when SSG doesn't have a tank available. SSG, they try to smartly, don't push the bot. They want to wait for Kellan to get back into that fight. But I think you have to give so much credit to Rad there for really playing that map so well throughout all 10 minutes.
Yeah, I feel Chronic had a decisively stronger Sojourn performance across the map. I feel Lep, I mean, I was so impressed. I thought for sure he was going to be popping that beat when Sugar Free Blade, and Sugar Free thought that too. Sugar Free had, I don't think, any intention to really commit with the Blade, but then after a couple seconds, he realized, hey, Lep's not beating. I have to go. I have to force the issue. And that just momentary delay, I mean, really impressive from Lep. That's something you see from the top Lucios in the game, is finding the windows to be greedy, to push the limit and hold the ultimate for even when you maybe should pop it. You're like, no, I believe my team. We don't need this ultimate. We're just going to crush you with our deathmatch. And Rad did exactly that, doubling down on this Sojourn Genji comp, holding their nerve, and it pays off with a 1-1 score in the series.
So this is not quite what we expected here, Jake. I mean, in a different dimension, Chronic doesn't disconnect on Control Center, and one thing leads to another, and Rad could have been up 2-0 in the series. I mean, that would have been quite a stretch. So that is.
I'm skeptical of that one, but
far off
I think they were losing that fight even if Chronic doesn't DC. But
potentially it exists in some universe, far out there, far away from us. But all I'm trying to say is, Jake, that I think that Rad has been very impressive so far this series, and especially that play you saw in Esperanza as well. It really sets up for the rest of a banger series that could go all the way.
I feel like, in that Hazard mirror, I kind of like the Kiri look over the Juno. As good as Juno is, as much healing throughput as she has, I feel like sometimes, like when the downpour comes in, orbital ray's just not enough, right? Like you're just getting headshot from absolutely everything in the world, and the ray healing is just not enough to keep you alive. Juno in particular really hates to be locked down the way Hazard can, or be, pushed out of the orbital ray. So I kind of like this Kiri look. It's very aggressive. It is risky. Like they're you have a lot less healing to deal with for the rest of your squad, but I think Rad really played that matchup to perfection, knowing that, okay, we have to be aggressive, we have to force the issue. That's the most difficult thing to do against a really strong team like SSG, is to force the issue, to play the more aggressive, the more punishing comp. And the fact that Rad are able to come away with the win there, I mean, honestly, I think that plays really well to their future here in the series.
Yeah, absolutely. We have seen a lot of Juno from CJ throughout this entire stage, so is that going to be a hero pick that they maybe try to go with for the rest of the series? I quite agree with you. I really like this Kiriko look from Zed as well in this kind of composition. We're going to see Numbani get picked here, and after the map change, obviously, first point is a lot easier to cap here for the attackers, but it's going to be an interesting one. Bans come out as well. SSG immediately say, we don't want to take part in this Hazard duel anymore. We want to shy away from that and put Kellan on something else. And Rad, in turn, they're going to block the Ana as their second ban.
Yeah, I think Numbani is just a classic map with so many of these devastating high grounds to be playing a dive strat on. So yeah, maybe the Ana takes away some of that, deadly threat that Bionade offers, protects a rush heavy style for Rad, because typically that's the issue for rush. You get dove on by something like a Wrecking Ball or a Winston, and it's the nade that really kills you, right? The Winston gets the job done, but the nade is what makes that possible in the face of these heavy throughput healing comps. So I think Rad signaling they want to keep playing these death ball strategies, which a lot more viable on Numbani post map rework, right? With this ability on first point to climb the stairs, get to the high ground, even without vertical mobility. I think this map is the old Numbani, I would have been a lot more scared for Rad, but new Numbani, I kind of feel like they have good options here as far as staying within their wheelhouse on the hero picks.
Yeah, I think I like Numbani more than your average player out there. I think there's a lot of players out there, Jake. I don't know if I'm just projecting here now, but I feel like there's a lot of players who are they have nightmares about Numbani first, and now I'm like, it's reworked. It's fine. The map is a lot better now. We like Numbani more. So I'm quite excited to get into things and see what compositions we're going to see here. Perhaps Kellan, maybe could play some Winston, but you block the Ana. There's no nano boost for the Winston to sometimes help out and push that momentum right. I feel like for Rad, like I said earlier, Painkiller likes these kind of brawly kind of tanks, right? So maybe we see more of the Ramatra, but doesn't really favor some of those high grounds, right? If SSG has high ground positioning. So there's got some questions going into this one. Going to be curious to see what compositions we eventually see from both teams.
Yeah, well, the series is tied up 1-1 here. Rad playing impressively well despite being heavy underdogs, or we would have thought so in this series. We'll have to see how the series finishes up right after this break. Welcome back. You're watching OWCS North America. We've got Rad taking on Spacestation Gaming, one of our partner teams in the region. Most players, most teams would have called them one of the best. Wub did in his interview from the last series. And yet Rad has it all tied up 1-1 here headed into Numbani. What do you expect to see here, Johnny?
Yeah, Rad looking mighty impressive so far, and I mean, we could see more of Painkillers, Ramatra come out here. SSG, they're going to opt for the Winston. We talked about it before the break, of course, not having the Ana available for some of those nano boosts, to follow up on some of those biotic grenades. That could be something that, could potentially set Kellan back, but CJ is going to pick the Kiriko instead, and, that could set up some flanks with Sugar Free on the Tracer, perhaps. In general, I think this kind of dive composition from SSG, Jake, that is something we have to consider a big strength for them, whether it's here on Numbani or we talked about it on the break, if something like Dorado could come later on in the series as well.
Yeah, I think Sugar Free really wants to get cooking here on Numbani. I think Tracer, he really has an opportunity to gap and make a big difference in the series. Lep goes over to the brig, so it's a very defensive bunkering style here for Rad. Curious to see how that works out, though. I feel Seeker is going to get a lot of free space to work with. I feel like it could be difficult for King to extend far beyond the main group, as Rad poke and prod here at this first point choke. Spacestation Gaming holding that back stairs. Shield comes up. Now Rad pulls the trigger, dives in. It's a big dynamite from Seeker, assisting that Winston dive. And the backline force clear out of the fight, not really able to come in, participate. Painkiller dove in deep, got low, but Chronic with a quick headshot shuts down Seeker. And without the Ash, there's not really the damage throughput. Kellen dropped low, forced to run for the Mega. And now this creates an opportunity for Rad, charging forward with the help of Lep and Zed. And they're starting to cap the point. Kellen was able to dance away, survive. SSG doing really well to keep their players alive, setting up the re-engage. Only one player capturing the point. Rad know the fight is coming to them.
Yeah, they're wrapping around there with all the flankers and, you know, a couple of ticks there for Rad, so someone from SSG will have to cap the point here. Rad is trying to stay alive. They're trying to stabilize on this high ground. Now Painkiller putting some pressure on the point, but drops quite low. Can he stay alive enough for the rest of the team to help? He cannot. Sugarfree finishes him off.
Yeah, really great patience from SSG, holding down these low ground positions. Seeker got back to the fight just in time. Rad just trying to regroup here. Looks like they will be able to get out. Kellen, no interest in chasing deep against a Brig, and Painkiller over to the Mauga. Stronger matchup against the Winston, but does die pretty quick under pressure from Ash.
Yeah, and this is something we've seen from Painkiller in the past, and crucially, no Ana this map, so you can't bionate them. Kitsune comes in from CJ, a quick push here. Sugarfree goes down, but both teams really trading. Zed drops the orbital ray to try and stabilize, and Kellen just can't find any value in it so far, but Chronic does go down, and that should be SSG winning on the back of a fast Kitsune rush in the corridors.
Yeah, and Kellen goes for more here. Lep does pop the rally, but that's good money after bad. Almost absurdly wasted here. King gets cleaned up, Lep dies as well, and Rally is such a potent ultimate in the low numbers fights, but dropping it here in the big ult dump really does not pay off. Spacestation are going to be really happy about that one. They've got the beat online to deal with King's potential blade. Chronic's Bob on point, though, could be a real issue. Spacestation don't have a great way to contest that. So I'm looking for Chronic to open the fight up. Remember, already 2 ticks captured. This is going to be a difficult one for Spacestation to hold. I think Sugarfree pretty much has to get a pulse bomb.
A lot of pressure on Bliss here with the sound barrier because you have to mitigate so much of this damage, whether it's the Bob, the Blade, or, you know, the power spike from the Maug as well. Here comes the Bob to contest. Now SSG are on a timer.
Yeah, and Chronic just holding back, supporting his own Bob. Kellen holding the point really well, though. King pops Blade, tries to force him in. Bliss gets the counter beat, and it's a great hold so far from SSG. Chronic finds Seeker, could be stabilizing things. Once again, the hit scan duel looks good for Rad.
Looks good for Rad here as SSG. I mean, they're barely staying alive here. CJ's gonna come up on a Kitsune rush, which could help them out there if they're just able to live long enough. Susa gets used here, it's Kitsune rush. Now you're gonna live, but Painkiller as well is gonna get so much value on this Mauga the longer this fight goes on.
Oh, this Kitsune is getting insane value, though. The entire team is playing in this. Cycling cooldowns, and there's a pulse from Sugarfree, finds 2! That's ridiculous that he's able to get the connection, shutting down both Lep and Chronic. He waited, and he was rewarded. That's beautiful from Sugarfree. That's why you got Sugarfree on your team, is for that pulse bomb right there.
It's so clinical, this dive, and the fact they're able to touch the point and stall out there. Like we talked about, the Bob came out as well, and so much pressure on the point, but they stall it out, and CJ builds the crucial Kitsune rush, which swings momentum in SSG's favor. And now, 20 seconds to go. I mean, you got double support ultimate coming through here. Maybe these ultimates are going to be that pushes this offense over the edge and finally caps point A.
Yeah, you'd think Spacestation really need to find quick kills. If Rad are able to rip these support and tank ultimates on the objective, it feels like it's impossible to hold on to it. Kellen wants to force something early. A big rail from Seeker, just not quite enough to find the pick. Kellen in the cage, fighting it out so close to Primal, but dies at 98%. It's not enough. Beat comes through from the left. They're committing everything. They're locking it down, and this will be first point for Rad.
Finally, Rad get it done. And I mean, it is such a hard fight for SSG in that scenario as well, because you don't have those ultimates available. I mean, that rail from Seeker to Zed almost finished off the Juno, which could have just meant the rest of Rad just falling over, but you know, instead it's Rad. They finally cap point A there. And I think if you're SSG, you have to recognize that. We're really proud of that point A hold. That was just a really difficult fight for us to really hold to a first point hold there. Instead now, Rad get the payload running, and SSG, they could close things down here on point B with a good defense.
Yeah, King doubles down on the anti-Winston hatred, but Kellen has Primal. This fight could navigate it, and you know, there's not really anybody to match Sugarfree on the Tracer now. So this Reaper pick is interesting. It theoretically makes the game harder for Kellen, but Kellen has been so patient so far, really understands his limits on the Winston, and Rad are kind of waiting for a dive that isn't coming.
Go time. Overclock gets popped by Seeker here, and it's so much damage. Zed goes down, Orbital Ray not popped at all, and I feel like this first fight is just going to be SSG cleaning things up here. Kellen posts the Primal Rage as well, so Painkiller Having a bit of issue on the Mauga, I guess, finish off there as well, but again, this is SSG, double support ultimate still available for them, and they're in a really good spot here. Kellan on the Winston, he's so good on this hero, and with so many high grounds available around the spawn as well, you can manipulate these timings, right? You can wait out the Mauga, you can wait out the Reaper, and then re-engage. I feel like there's so much mobility available for SSG here that they can kind of pick when they want to engage.
Yeah, the spawn hold I think is no longer that viable on this map though with the high ground exit, and it's a little bit of an overextension for SSG. Beat only onto 2. Seeker was already dead, and that looks terrible right now for Bliss. It's gonna be just a wipe on the payload for Spacestation Gaming. I think looks like they are gonna try and stay alive behind. This is a bit of a risky decision, but if they stay alive, it's gonna pay off. It's gonna help them on this re-engage. At this point, too late to stop the car, but Chronic finds Sugar Free. That is
devastating.
Such a critical pickoff.
Yeah, especially with the payload this close to cap as well, and things are just gonna fall apart here. Seeker finds a pick on the Zed, but even that, I'm not sure if that's enough. Chronic returns fire on the Seeker as well. Painkiller drops quite low here. Left past a sound barrier. It's going to be committed. 15 seconds to go. This is the last fight.
Kellan is dancing really, really well. Despite that pickup on a Sugar Free, he's still applying that pressure from the back line. They're trying to get the late pickoffs, but Chronic just gets kill after kill with this Sojourn. He's unstoppable right now. Man, if this guy was not firing on all cylinders, that fight almost assuredly goes the way of Spacestation Gaming. They're feeling the heat from Chronic's Railgun.
Yeah, so I think SSG, they want that spawn hold back, of course, the way they committed support ultimates there, but onwards to point 3, another 1 minute, 20 seconds to go here. Kellan dives deeper for Chronic after the slide has been used, but another one available soon enough. And now Rad, I mean, they're still sitting on this Reaper Mauga composition. They're trying to force Spacestation into a difficult scenario to get some of these early picks, and when, you know, Kellan has dove deep already, that is when Painkiller, he can drop the cage now. Here comes the early Kitsune rush.
Yeah, over the top and an instant pick onto Chronic. They shut down the biggest threat that's been so far so difficult for them. But King with the Death Blossom finds 3 still, though. Kellan fighting it out in the rush. Isn't going to pop the Primal. Is going to elect to take the reset. Maybe wise here in the face of something like the Reaper. Pretty impossible to burn down with the Primal. And King, with the help of the Mauga cage, pretty devastating combo for the Reaper. It really does pay off here. But coming into what should be the final fight of the map, it's only going to be the Orbital Ray up against Primal Rage. So difficult to stay in that Ray in the face of Kellan. Seeker pops Overclock, already finding some connections, forces a lot of big counter skills out. Ray comes in, stabilizing the rest of the squad, but Seeker gets bursted down. Kellan not able to get him with the Primal. Needs to stabilize, need to find something here, but Rad are fighting together, and they're fighting so strong. Chronic, close to an overclock of his own, flips the map with his own jump, back to the back line. So far, Juno isolated, but not able to be caught. Zed dashing out of the way. Chronic with OC looking for connections. It's Bliss, though, who was able to clean up Zed. The beat from left. This is the last chance for Rad to finish out the map, but Bliss has a beat of his own, just gets it out in time. It's a 5-man beat. That's going to be the cleanup for Spacestation Gaming, almost assuredly. Painkiller, though, does shut down the Reaper. That helps pretty well, but Seeker doesn't need him even. Sugar Free, just getting this cleanup, watching it happen on the Tracer, and despite some great holds on first point from Spacestation Gaming, some big aggressive dives, you still nearly get a full cap for Rad Esports.
Yeah, I think you have to be really happy with that push if you're Rad Esports there as well. Some credit as well, I think, to Seeker popping that overclock early. That forced the orbital rate to be used from Rad while they were still pushing the payload. But that just means that it's more difficult for Rad to close things out and cap the payload. So Sugar Free with some contest while Kellan was primal raging. I think that early overclock, that means that Rad, they're just not able to find those picks to close out the map itself. But in general, I feel like SSG, you know, they were close at some points to hold both point A. They could have held point B had they gotten more value out of their support ultimates in that spawn hold. Probably didn't even have to go for the spawn hold in the first place, like you said. So SSG, you know, you can't be too unhappy when you have the opportunity to close things out here without going to overtime. But still, I think they could have got some more value out of that defense.
Yeah, I am a little bit worried for Rad, though. In the end, as much as they got to feel good about, you know, after how that first hold went, that you did get it so close to the end of the map, in the end, it's still a brutal first hold. And embodying first is not what it once was. I think this is much more even for attackers, like much more winnable for them. And honestly, a full Winston mirror, I don't know if you want this smoke. Like, as good as Rad has been, I don't think you want this smoke. We're talking about Kellan right now. Kellan has been dancing on you on the Winston. He's been looking really, really clean with his moves, even against something like a Mauga Reaper. Now you're going into a comp where this is where Winston really gets to shine, really gets to take the lobby over. I wonder.
I wouldn't be surprised if, we play the Winston on this first point because of the 2 high grounds and maybe trying to protect our backline with the Winston bubble as well. If CJ goes for follows up Kellon with some aggressive dive here, you might need that Winston bubble, but I wouldn't be too surprised to see Painkiller swap this off after the first point. It's going to be Kellon first diving onto the point here, trying to grab some space. Painkiller cuts them off. I feel like this is a lot of momentum though for SSG here. With the bubble committed from Painkiller, that is going to mean that, Rad on their back foot now with no defensive cooldown.
Yeah, position taken. Kellen did drop low, though. Was forced out of the fight. Now Rad pushing with their own bubble tempo, though. Kellen dives right back in. Bubble onto the point. It's going to be difficult for Rad to fight through this. Both Winstons trading well. Ticks coming, though, for Spacestation Gaming. They're able to find 2. Both Winstons drop. Now it's the deathmatch. No tanks available. Chronic trying to stay alive. He's been the hero before on the Sojourn, but right now it's CJ and Seeker coming up with the kills. Seeker in such a dominant position on this high ground. Lep forced to contest. Nothing else he can do. Chronic gets the kill, but too little, too late. Spacestation Gaming scrap it out and win. And yeah, the Winstons get traded, but this is where Spacestation Gaming really shine.
Yeah, absolutely. They set up those angles to begin with. Like you said, Chronic's pick there on the Seeker, it's a little bit too late because at that point Seeker had already played from such a pivotal position and gotten 2 frags of his own. So Painkiller now does swap over to that Mauga and looks to make things difficult for Kellan once again. King is going to move over to this Echo as well. Can be quite tricky sometimes, maybe for the Sojourn to get value out of that. You really need to hit your rail guns, of course. But Spacestation, they have a Kitsune Rush available here. You can see what they can cook up with this dive composition now against the Maug of Painkiller. Sugar free? Don't want to see a replay of that one.
Maybe he thought he had an extra blink there. CJ pops the ultimate, both teams rushing, and you don't necessarily want to fight the Mauga in the small room. Seeker, though, shuts down his opposite number. Now King down to half HP. Seeker looking for more, maybe looking to pop the overclock, wants to win without it. Looks like they won't need it, as now Rad just forcing the contest on the cart, getting cleaned up. They have contested cart early enough that they should get a refight, but with this Mauga comp, feels so difficult to walk up and touch the payload. The mobility advantage for Winston is really huge here, especially on the attack, where honestly this defensive Mauga just doesn't look good to me. You're not able to hold down the objective in these crucial open spaces where all the final capture points on the map are.
Yeah, overclock to really secure things here.
No beat on Painkiller.
Going to come in from Lep actually, and they do contest, but Painkiller dies, and that is just going to be the rest of Rad really crumbling. Spacestation, they do get the cap and look towards point C now, but I agree with you. The fact that it's Numbani as well, there were so many high grounds to use, so even though, maybe the Mauga is in a pretty good position to get some value, but then Kellan can quickly disengage, CJ can follow up with the teleport and just evade all these big power spikes from the Mauga, so SSG, this is them playing their comfort, and Rad, it's so hard to get value out of this Mauga, and the Echo as well. King is going to swap over to the Tracer and recognizing that the Echo just wasn't the great pick.
Yeah, maybe King can win it a little bit better than Duel. Sugarfree has a Pulse Bomb, looking to find a connection, forcing Suzu first if he can. Overclock comes in from Chronic with the aggressive rush forward. Now, Rad, looks like it's just enough to force the reset. CJ tried to stay alive. No, King does find the cleanup, though. And Spacestation gonna take the reset for the first time in the map. The snowball stops. A little bit of breathing room for Rad Esports. But what is it worth? They have nothing left for this next team fight. This could be the map right here, right now, Johnny.
4 minutes and 30 seconds. That's all you gotta hold, SSG here on point C of Numbani. You have a Kitsune Rush available for SSG, and Kellan with the Primal Rage as well, going for a bit of a wraparound like we've seen them do so often. Overrun from Painkiller triggered, fall backs a little bit, and SSG just trying to set up these angles and get in a position to succeed while Sugarfree takes the duel of the King.
The map control is just so dominant from SSG. Kellan rips the Primal, opens up. Looks like the rush comes in, but not able to find much connection. Kellan looking to get right back in, force people in too deep, deeper than they want to be. He is trapped by the cage, though. Painkiller finding enough. They're trying to keep Kellan alive, but they're not able to. Fighting into the cage is a dangerous game against the Mauga, who's fighting incredibly well at this low HP. Still, Sugarfree tries to ball it out. It's just Sugarfree and CJ. I don't think this is going to be enough for the cleanup. Support still alive. Desperation Pulse Bomb from Sugarfree. I wonder if he wants to go for a swap. Curious. I think Tracer is still pretty decent pick here. Kellan gonna get off the Winston. Maybe he feels like mobility is no longer worth so much up against the Mauga on this third point. A little bit more congested here.
Yeah, and it makes sense, right? There's no real high ground to operate with here, and even if you take some wide flank angles, like what can you really do with that? So opting for a more straight up approach. CJ swaps over to Juno as well. Full spawn from King onto Sugarfree. Beautiful, actually. And that's going to push SSG back just a little bit longer. We're down to 3 minutes, but this is a pretty decent look from Rad now. Painkiller swaps over to the Orisa himself, and suddenly, maybe this could be the defense that, could be the difference here.
Still a lot of time in the bank, though, Johnny.
There is
SSG
a lot of
moving
time.
forward. Lep has beat, but you really don't want to beat aggressively in this situation. You really want to hold it down for a defensive usage, which means ultimately it's slight advantage in economy, I think, for SSG. If Seeker is able to get something done with this overclock, Chronic's super low, needs to get back, needs to get healed. Oh, solo again. Seeker needs a connection, can't quite get it. Beat comes in. Oh, Ajax forced out. Bliss got nothing, boy. Is that a double Ajax? Oh, double Ajax.
No way.
Looks like they're winning the fight, though, in the deathmatch. Kellen falling back. I don't think I've ever seen a double Ajax reinforce. What a game. This is
Did my
cinema.
eyes deceive me? There's no way that was a double Ajax, right? Surely we just
I
missed one
think
of them.
that was a double Ajax. Am I crazy? I'm pretty sure.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. I've never seen that.
That's beautiful right there. Seeker over to the Cassidy. Wants a little bit of a stronger answer for King with Sugar Free on the Genji. Now Orbital Ray is going to be available for Kellen pushing into the front line, and fighting inside the Ray is going to be a very potent combo here for SSG. Seeker looking for something. Spin into the Ray, though. They're not able to find it. Popping the spin a little early. Painkiller can't get kills. Kellen counter spins, crushing this counter aggression right now that Rad Esports tried to bring to bear. Lep desperately diving into the cart, wants to shut down CJ on super low HP. CJ just barely dances away, and now Rad in a very difficult spot, forced to do a desperation recontest. Painkiller onto the Doomfist. The Diva, oh, a late swap. That's going to be, I don't know if you're making it to the car with that. Boop comes in for the Lucio, and they're
Nice
not
Boop.
going to make it.
Oh my god, what a chaotic round that ended up being, but it's the
Double
better
Ajax.
Terra Surge. The double Ajax. We need to see a
Double
replay of that.
Ajax. That's so beautiful.
We need to
Never
see a
have I
replay
seen
of
something
that
so
happen.
beautiful.
But, I mean, honestly, it's a better Terra Surge from Kellan there as well, and a good beat from SSG that gets them over the edge there. And realistically, a 4.5 minute point C defense, that like never happened. Still though, Rad, they hung in there for a little while, but it's going to be SSG coming out on top on the back of Kellan's Winston play, which was the dominant hero, I feel like, throughout that map.
I feel like that first and second point attack for SSG really illustrated, you know, a lot of players would look at Overwatch and say, oh, like Mauga is a hard counter to Winston. Like, how do you can't play Winston against Mauga? And then you just watch that POV, like watch Kellen's attack. You know, on the attack for Rad, where you can decide to get off the payload whenever you want, you come back in and initiate on people with Mauga, the Mauga matchup is a lot better. But on the defense where the attackers force car, and as a defender, you must contest, you must stop that payload progression, Mauga just can't engage in that sort of like long tit for tat, slow trade of resources. Mauga's just not effective in that scenario, not able to get any purchase until third point, where yes, the map really tightens up. There's not nearly as many flanks where that mobility edge, you know, ends up counting. So well played by SSG, putting on a clinic on points 1 and 2, making the swap when they lose momentum, and you know, getting it done there at the end. It was definitely getting sketchy there on third point.
It was for a little bit there, and as we take a look at the highlights, we'll eventually get to the double Ajax if it was one. I just sure hope it was. I still can't believe it. I'm a little bit in this.
Yeah, I'm like, did I? I saw one Ajax and I was like, wait a minute, where's the other beat? I just like there was no beat. Like
there was no beat. I feel like if you look at Rad, what they've done as well so far this series, it has been the straight up linear aggression, right? They go early, they get on top of SSG, but Numbani, you know, the nature of this map, there's so many high grounds available, there's so many flanks available for SSG that they're kind of able to dodge that. Wait, here we go. Is this it? One Ajax from Lep and Bliss.
yeah, Bliss got stunned out. Yes, Spade, dude. I am never in all my years, Johnny. You know, there's always more to see. There's always more to see, baby. This is the beautiful game. The double Ajax.
At the same time.
I can't
believe it.
It's a work of art. It's
There's
cinema.
no way. I've never seen that happen in all years of Overwatch. That's insane. A double Ajax?
Dare to dream, Johnny. Boldly
I've
go.
seen a mythical
Boldly
creature.
go where no man has gone before. The double Ajax. What will they think of next? The scriptwriters are doing a number on me right now.
That is beautiful. And what was especially beautiful with that double Ajax is you can probably fit both Lucios into the same frame. So, you know, Sojourn, get on that.
Somebody get me like the
angle of both Lucios Ajaxing.
Michelangelo's like reaching to touch God. Two Lucios coming to touch hands while they die with the beat.
Oh, boy.
Oh my God.
Okay, we're heading to Route. It says push, but I promise you that Route 66 is an escort map. indeed here for Rad. And so, yeah, going back to things, I feel like this straightforward.
There's still a match going on. I forgot.
There's a match going on. And, you know, the hazard ban is out of the way now for SSG. So if you kind of want to return to that hazard matchup, if that is something you like doing, then Rad has the opportunity to do so here on Route 66. Now, there are some long sight lines. Maybe we could see some Torbjorn being picked, for example, to create an off angle and put some more pressure onto the hazard. Earlier today in EMEA, I'm pretty sure we saw some BAP Zen being played or stuff like that on these longer range escorts. So there are a few options here for SSG if they don't want to opt into that hazard duel. But certainly this could be a map where Rad gets back on track.
I am calling it, Johnny. I have no idea. Actually, I'm not looking at this or anything. I'm betting that there's a Lucio ban coming down for SSG. I think that's the Giga Brain play is banning Lucio right now. Because I think you're right, the hazard ban can come out.
There you go.
I'm a genius. I'm a genius.
You're a genius. So
Lock
smart.
in, baby. And the Tor ban is great. Tor ban is big because I think this is like Rad's like, we're gonna go play hazard. Like we're playing this is a great escort map for hazard. It's vertical, but not too vertical. It's just like hazard vertical, you know, just the little wall climbs here and there gets the job done for verticality. It's not a Dorado where you're really climbing high. But at the same time, it's a map where you can play a very high pace on escort. You can play the Lucio style. So SSG shuts that down, and this could be like a very divey engagement, especially with the Tor ban. Curious to see if there's like Winston's, Wrecking Balls, Widowmakers type heroes could come out. We saw that clip from a previous match where Lep was playing the Zen, who could like that BAP Zen Sig you mentioned. I think both teams are going to have to kind of go for a strategy they weren't exactly planning for, right? I think that's the beauty of hero bans in a map like this is both teams are going to have to make a game time adaptation and won't necessarily have practiced what they end up bringing to the match here. I kind of like SSG in that scenario because I think they are slightly more flexible overall. As you mentioned previously, I think Rad really likes that, you know, Lucio-centric style, whether Lucio's coming to the flank and assisting a Genji or they're just deathballing as a unit. That's where they look the strongest. So SSG, take away that comfort zone, look to close out the series here on Route 66.
Yeah, so just looking at some of the previous compositions we've seen from these teams, we have seen two kinds of Juno compositions from Rad. Either they put Lep on the Brigitte and Zed goes over to the Juno, or Lep plays the Juno and Zed goes over to the Ana. And for SSG as well, they've of course brought out Bliss playing the Brig, while CJ plays the Ana as well. But you know, both teams opting for Sen here early on. It could be a good hero because of these long sightlines, utilizing the Discord Orb, of course, that puts some extra pressure onto a tank if they want to contest Garage, for example. So it is a viable hero in this kind of scenario, and with no Lucio in the mix, that opens up the door for maybe some more flex support heavy approaches, right? With less speed to offer to get into the backline and punch them.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this Ana Zen style on defense. I think this is incredibly potent. The risk of it, though, is you kind of get one fight per point. Like, realistically, you're not going to be able to reset. You're very all in. So one mistake, one Widow pick from Chronic could really blow this defense wide open. But Painkiller could have a difficult time, right? You get slept and just 5-ward by Zen. Even the Hazard is going to die very, very quickly as, oh, quick pause coming in. Both teams going to get an opportunity. Oh,
that was the quickest pause of all time.
Unpause coming in. As we just get right back into the action. All right. As Spacestation looks to go for a little forward hold here. I think this is a very soft commit.
Another pulse. So slight mistake, slight error.
They said, Johnny J, this is you guys' first cast of the season. We're gonna be throwing some crazy ones at you. With the double Ajax, we got a pause into a pause. What's next?
I don't know. Is this match scripted? There's no way. There's no way. I do think that this is going to be quite interesting what we see here, because SSG, of course, when they play the Tracer and the Wrecking Ball, that could pair up with quite a lethal dive and a lot of pressure onto Rad's backline with the BAP and Sen to stay alive in those kind of scenarios. You know, you have a bit of a window you can survive with the Lamp, of course, the drone. But besides that, I mean, if you're playing Sen in this scenario, there's going to be so much pressure on top of you. So I'm really excited for this map. I think just stylistically, the compositions being played, it's going to be quite interesting from an Overwatch analysis perspective.
Yeah, I think, you know, while BAP can drone some of these dives, Wrecking Ball just has such a nice matchup against BAP. You know, yes, the pile driver, you can drone it, but you can also get pile drived. If you're like a little bit in the air, you get pile drived out of that drone protection radius and get like popped by a Sojourn or a Zen. You get booped away, you know, when you're trying to jump on BAP, and you could get really caught in a bad scenario. King really wants to connect to this backline and shut down on a Zen, but he's not going to have so much help in doing it.
Interesting. They swap off immediately.
Okay, yeah, I like this. I like this.
The Diva and Lep over to the Kiriko and set on the Ana. So Yeah, I agree with you. This makes a lot of sense from Rad.
You just can't afford to be sitting ducks against Ana Zenball. It's not possible. There's no comp in the game that survives just the storm of damage coming in from all sides. Kellen up on this high ground, looking to set up an initial dive. Looks like he's going for it now. Gonna get a big slam straight into the back line. Follow up, not quite there. No kills coming in. Kellen a little awkward on the roll here. That's gonna cost him a lot of HP, yeah. Rad weathering the storm really nicely. They don't have the strongest punchback though. It's a very defensive comp, very focused on just pushing the cart little by little. So Spacestation gonna just get a few more attempts here diving in. Looks like no connections here so far. Kellen happy to just slow the game down. Sugar Free holding the cart with the help of that Zen Orb when he needs it. And Rad are just being very patient, very cautious as they need to be. Painkiller though, super low. Has to fall back, has to group with the supports. Nade comes in for CJ, just defensive. Gets Kellen back up to speed on the HP. So far, a very hotly contested first engagement. Sleeps come in on the Kellen, but the players are so low in both backlines. This time, King gets the first connection onto Bliss. Sugar Free falls again, and now Rad finally has weathered the storm enough. The pushback comes through, and they're able to get the cleanup, able to roll this cart forward. Bliss over to the Brig, wants to be just a little bit more defensive and stable. I like this against the Diva. Good response. But do Space Station have a decent contest here?
Yeah, they are already contesting the high ground here, but they have no ultimates really available just yet. They are going to get this Nano available. Kellen is going to put some pressure on the backline, and I mean, Zed is left to dry here, pretty much alone in the backline. Hits a nice sleep on the Kellen here, actually. Kitsune Rush comes out, trying to play the objective as best they can, but Sugar Free trying to play the stall game. Mines on cart, that's going to buy some time for SSG to get back into this fight.
Yeah, it's gonna stabilize and get people out onto the map. Sugar Free looking for something with this pulse bomb. Drops super low. Overclock from Seeker, fighting in the mines. Very difficult to pressure him. Beautiful disruptor shot. Gets the cleanup on the hiding Ana, and now Seeker charges forward. More connections on the OC. And that's a wipe here. Rad sent home to spawn. Painkiller, no, not quite a wipe. Does escape on the Diva. But this Brig swap, I think, is really beautiful. Brig has such a good matchup against Diva, against Kiriko, Genji. I mean, these are going to be much more difficult fights to get with Rad swapping into the dive. CJ, though, hasn't been able to find the nade connections he's hoping for.
Yeah, hasn't been able to find the nade connection so far, and it's a bit of a shame for Rad. They're not able to get value from that Kitsune Rush. SSG are able to stall things out, right? They do have a lot of ultimates available here. You have a Nano Blade, for example, but you pretty much need to get value onto the backline of the Brig and Ana here, and they're going to be quite far back. So Rad, they have to work the positioning, but here we go with Chronic.
Oh, just annihilates Seeker on the slide, finds a second onto CJ. The Nano Sojourner, really great choice there. So much more difficult to shut down the Nano Sojourner, where Nano Genji always potentially vulnerable to the sleep. And that should be first point for Rad. Kellen just gonna try to escape, can't even get out with his life. King is just emoting while the enemy still has a player alive.
Yeah, Nano Sojourner, obviously the better option there, considering the sightlines and the range really for a Genji to get up close there. So great choice by Rad to get value from that Nano overclock. And Chronic is actually going to swap over to the Sombra. And this is a look we have seen from them in the past here on Route 66, actually. I believe it was just yesterday, actually, that they were able to actually put up a pretty good fight here with this composition. So this could be something where they try to rely on these hacks and set up King and Lep to drop some well-timed ultimates.
Yeah, Sommer in a nice position here, harassing the backline. Looking for another maybe recommit here. But with Rally, it's going to be super difficult for Rad Esports. I mean, Rally is just like a god ultimate in this fight. So Rad want to bait that ultimate out before they do any kind of super hard commitment. Lep all alone. Looks like didn't have the swift step to get out of trouble. And now Kellen looking to finish them off. Without Kiri, there's really no defense. Big nade, though, came in from CJ onto that backline. And even Painkiller's going to go down here and lose mech. Almost certainly, wait, the save comes in from Kiriko. And Chronic did find Seeker in the melee. And I wonder, is that going to be enough for Rad? Maybe not much of a tempo lead, but Seeker's going to be a little bit late, and Sojourner's really your biggest threat when it comes to pressuring these walk-ups. It's a nice late pick for Chronic to find.
Yeah, let's kind of see how they layer these ultimates, you know. King again with his Dragon Blade, like how much value can you really secure, right? But it could get some opposing enemy ultimates out. You know, like you said, this Bliss Rally is really what we gotta keep our eyes on. Callum does get hacked here, but it's not enough. King drops the blade as well, gets anti and stunned, and Bliss just shuts him down.
Yeah, the Rally is just so potent into this matchup. Genji really, even with Blade, like without Nano Blade, even with Nano Blade, sometimes you can, you know, get stunned and just lose your momentum on that Blade. So Bliss, really well played, saves that ultimate and shuts down a double ultimate commit from Rad, who go over to the Winston comp, right? Maybe a little bit more of an aggressive look, better follow-up, potentially, for Chronic's EMP. Spacestation need to be careful, need to have a good Delta split here, not give up a massive EMP. Seeker, though, starts the fight early. King maybe leading in a little too aggressively, forced a recall, and yeah, gets cleaned up. team wasn't quite ready to force the engagement, but look at Kellen, man. He is just so annoying on this ball. Constantly engaging, constantly forcing fights. Sugarfree went for a pulse, didn't find anything to write home about here as Rad looks to regroup, looks to find something, but Chronic just, he can't get in. He cannot get the setup. This new Sombra, so much more difficult to find the EMP setups with the limited time stealth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Rad right now, they're just trying to find a position where they can reliably drop this Kitsune Rush and put some pressure onto SSG. EMP comes out from Chronic, not onto Seeker. What value can he find?
Yeah, maybe could have nanoed Bliss there, but ends up going for Seeker. And oh, big nade though after the cleanse. It's just enough. Even though CJ dies, he gets the job done, shutting down the dive. And I think Space Station have more HP here. Ball Tracer, exactly the heroes you'd want in this final cleanup phase. King all alone, 2 versus 1. And they want to get this kill. A little bit risky to chase with Lep off the spawn, so maybe they will take the fall back here. With 10 seconds though left, just the nano boost on the cards. You have to imagine this could go to Painkiller, but I kind of want to see it go to King here. With Bliss on the brig, it's going to be hard for Winston to get much done with the nano.
But King utilizes all the blinks to get the touch in as well, and now Rad are trying to work their way in. You need a hero play from Rad here. You need this nano to come through. Chronic goes down early. King with the pulse bomb and maybe the nano. They just need to stay alive.
Nano something.
Frag here.
He does nano the Winston. Sugarfree dodges the sleep. Gonna go back in, look for more. Winston did get the nano, but still just getting punched through. Didn't have the armor. Gets the Ana kill, but bombs on point, Johnny. The special move. It is very powerful. You gotta contest, but the bombs are so deadly. Trying to just fight through, heal this brig. Rad staying alive remarkably well, but I mean, Bliss is just so dominant. Raid boss on the point with the brig. And it's a beautiful hold from Space Station Gaming. As good as Rad have been on the Lucio, on the Genji, here in this conventional dive mirror, we are seeing the raw strength of Space Station Gaming.
Yeah, just not able to get into these conditions where they can get a good fight going. Early picks from SSG, and you know, the Wrecking Ball is such a menace when you walk up and you think that maybe we can drop the Kitsune Rush here, we can take some positioning and push the momentum, try to get some frags. Then Kellan swings in, drops the pile driver. Sugarfree, I mean, we know how good Sugarfree is on these Tracer flanks as well, so I mean, this is SSG just playing what they do best, really, and showing why they were the favorites going into this series.
Yeah, incredibly well executed. The offense, I love that swap from Rad, but then, I mean, just the one swap from Bliss, right? Straight to the brig, and immediately the matchup falls apart, really, for Rad. I think after that brig swap comes in, yes, you win one more fight, snowballing off of like a big ultimate lead, but then the brig stabilizes, and the rest of the map is just dominant for Space Station Gaming. That's the risk of the D.Va and the Kiriana strat, you know? It's like, yes, it has some explosive potential, but brig is just such a stronger frontline fighting support.
Yeah, and also the Sombra, right? Because if you're trying to walk up and you're playing this like D.Va, Genji, Sombra composition, like you don't really have a strong neutral. And so when you're trying to get positioning, when you're trying to walk up, SSG, you know, Seeker's going to sit on that Sojourn and just like pelt shots into the D.Va, build the railgun, and then find individual frags. And the Sombra can't really do anything by themselves. The Genji needs some help with these dives, especially onto an on a brig backline. And so Rad not really able to find anything with that offensive composition, and now SSG, they're going to opt for the Ana and the Kiriko instead. Bliss recognizing that doesn't really need to play the Brigitte just yet, but the Kiriko could help up taking some control here and helping Kellan out with some of these dives, perhaps.
Yeah, I think this is really a tailored support comp to counter this hazard, but it's King who comes up with the pickup onto Seeker. Maybe a little bit too aggressive for Seeker, trying to get something done. Space Station want to just get out, but Rad are, you know, doing what they do best, grouping, deathballing, snowballing off of a pick, and getting the rest of the cleanup, snowballing through the map. I love this comp, you know, backs against the wall. You've got to win here on Route 66, and you bring out what's been winning for you all series long. Yes, you can't play the Lucio, but the Brig is a decent enough replacement for this deathball style.
Yeah, so taking a look at Rad here now, of course, Painkiller going to be pivotal with this spike wall and really trying to find picks. Go for a bit of a swipe onto Sugarfree, but doesn't get on low. I mean, the dive is coming through from Kellan here, and then Seeker with the supplementary fire. Rad are just under so much pressure throughout and can't get anything going.
Yeah, Kellan's really dancing with them on the high ground, and the card is rolling forward bit by bit here. Nade misses, though, for CJ. Well dodged by Painkiller, who gets back to the rest of his squad. Not able to push the card too much more. King is super deep, very alone in the backline. What if they'll elect to turn and clean up this Genji? Looks like they will go for that. And Kellan stayed alive in the meantime. Sugarfree, though, a little bit too aggressive. Painkiller trades it right back. Kellan is deep in the backline, though, on top of these supports, and Painkiller isn't able to get any help because of Kellan's distraction. It's really well played. CJ has nano, but doesn't even need it here. It's all cleanup here for Space Station Gaming. Nano available, could go to pretty much anybody right now. Could be elected to just use it defensively. Wouldn't hate seeing it on somebody like Seeker, even without the ultimate. And I mean, Kellen, he's so aggressive on this wrecking ball. He's pushing the limit so hard. And there's no hard control available for Rad Esports, save the rally, which they don't want to pop on the walk-up.
Yeah, they have double support ultimate here, but they gotta touch the payload, but mines are coming out there as well. So ultimates are being popped here, but you know, what value can you find? The rally comes out, King goes down early, 4 versus 5 situation, Orbital Ray is being dropped as well. Painkiller finds a pick onto Bliss, but the overclock is just too much, and the pile driver from Kellan to follow up onto Chronic and to set as well. I mean, it's just so much damage coming out from SSG and Rad. With, you know, standing on the back foot, really. They don't have any positioning. There's mines on the point, and they're trying to get something going, but SSG are just too comfortable already with positioning set up for them in going into that fight.
Kellan's on the Winston. 4 minutes on the clock. Johnny, call it, baby. Spacestation Gaming, they are feeling confident right now, and this is such a great spot for Winston. He's going to be able to do so much on second point. Really going to be difficult, I think, for somebody like a Genji to mark the high ground. And look at that tasty little backline all on their lonesome. Painkiller, though, puts up on the Seeker. It does cost a downpour, though, so yes, you find the pick, but I mean, SSG are probably going to keep fighting this. They're down 1, but I don't think they care much. Big nade on the Painkiller and King. Opportunity here for Spacestation Gaming to maybe push the issue. Sugar Free a little bit too low to force anything, though. Cart rolling forward bit by bit. You see how difficult even King is forcing the contest, but it's not easy. King forced out, does get the rally trade. Could be, you know, decent value in this spot, but in the end, the Cart rolling forward is its final fight.
I mean, that is, you know, essentially how it goes. King finds a pick on the Seeker, though. This is pivotal considering the stakes here. I mean, Rad has to win this fight.
Blade comes in onto the Brig, and she doesn't have a whip, it looks like. Wasn't able to get out of the scenario. Bliss with the rally turns the tables onto Painkiller, and now it's a force on the objective. Rad has to touch, but Kellan chasing down these frags. Painkiller on 1 HP, assuredly getting cleaned up here by the dive. Sugar Free finishing the game. King does trade it back, but King is going to die for his troubles, and a beautiful Winston performance from Kellan seals the deal. Spacestation Gaming immaculate on the dive. Yes, Rad showed some signs of strength, but in the end, the flexibility wins the day in this hero band format.
Yeah, as the series progressed, we kind of went over to these dive compositions, and that is when SSG really flourished there. Kellan swapping over to the Winston as well. Against this Juno Brig backline, I mean, you're having a field day. You know, there's no sleeps available, and you have an easy time getting on top of the high grounds, utilizing, of course, that to your advantage, but then also putting so much pressure onto the backline of Rad. So ultimately, that is just SSG, what they do best, playing these dive compositions, and a very impressive 3-1. But Rad, though, I mean, they won a map. They almost were close on that Lijiang Tower, so I feel like Rad, we have to give them some credit.
Yeah, I feel like we underrated them heading into this one. I think most people, even though it is a 3-1, wouldn't have expected them to be able to close it or make it so close, at least in some instances. Most of all, I'm impressed that a team like SSG, who does like to play aggressive, struggle with the aggression of another team such as Rad. Like when Rad were on top of things, it was because they just ran at them. No fear, no respect. They just brought aggression, and that put the SSG on the back foot, and that was really, really impressive to see. So overall, Rad Esports shouldn't feel too upset about today's performance. It wasn't their game to win.
Yeah, Seeker got a ton of pressure in this series. I feel Rad was heavily targeting Seeker. He did adapt well, I think, throughout the series. Had a lot of solid kites and escapes, you know, thinking back to some of those fights on Lijiang. Able to escape the dive, turn around the engagement. But like you guys said, you know, props to Rad. I think as much as this was a loss, it was the loss you were hoping for, if that makes sense. As though obviously these players are not going to be satisfied with it. I think Rad have to know that maybe they could have won this series, and that's going to bite for them. But I think as an outside observer, we can say that this is still a team we want to see more from. We want to see them take on some of the other top teams in the region. If they can make SSG sweat, there's a lot of teams they can beat.
Yeah, and we have to give a shout out to Chronic. I think Chronic played a great game on the hit-scan role here, handling the Sojourn, found early picks as well, and that is ultimately what, you know, snowballed these first couple of maps. I feel like on Lijiang Tower, they won most of the first fights and then won the first fight here on Esperanza as well. And when you get that kind of like advantage, right, that's when you can start building ultimates early and try to snowball at least a little bit. So yeah, a good aggressive composition coming out from Rad and some good individual play. SSG, I feel like they have. Oh, are we gonna see the double Ajax, by the way?
Yes,
I mean,
assuredly.
So we need your reaction to this. This has never happened before, right? I'm imagining.
I've never seen
no,
this.
I honestly thought I didn't see it right. I just generally could not believe that it actually happened. I was just like, nah, Nah. We got a 3k DMEC kill earlier today, which is already like, excuse me?
No, double Ajax is like double Ajax.
Then we get a double Ajax
kill. That's like one in a million.
But we haven't seen either happening in pro.
True.
Like Overwatch in ever, probably. So a blessed day. I also want to give a special shout out to the backlines of both teams, actually. Specifically to Lucius, you pointed them out on right after map 1 already. Bliss and Lep, they were quite a difference makers. I love to see them both in action, especially when they play really aggressive comps.
Yeah, I think Lep looked fantastic on the Lucio throughout the series, but it did kind of bite Rad that they were so committed to that style. You know, going into Route 66, Bliss on the Brig was a huge difference maker. I mean, really clean moves on the Brig, winning a lot of team fights with perfect play, perfect positioning, and just stifling Rad. Like, Rad had no opportunities on second point, Route 66, to even get into the fight. They're forcing with early ultimates. It's never what you want to do in Overwatch, right? So that's really, I think, a lot of credit to Bliss and Kellen for how effectively they play that Winston Brig setup.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at our player of the match. And it is going to be CJ.
CJ had a great game. We didn't highlight him enough, honestly, but he did have a really solid game. I mean, a lot of the time he's the unsung hero playing Juno, just like pumping heals. Curious to see the stats, because I did see some of those maps, like on the full team stat, we saw that, you know, big heals came in from the side of SSG, and a lot of that is going to be CJ. This Ana as well was forced into great. I think that Ana was really where he had his big moments, right? Finding these big nades, finding the dive setups, clutching out in some of these like really difficult low numbers engagements. Ana is arguably the most difficult hero to play in the Winston comp, where, you know, you need to both find aggressive nades, you know, get big dives, you need to sleep the enemy flankers, you need to stay alive with no mobility. And so navigating that well, CJ is a player that has been in the scene for a while, like climbing in the tier 2 scene, but now is undeniably one of the best support players in North America.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. Backline look good, frontline look good, everything in between look good. You know what? You're a very supportive character. I love that. Let's bring in the main character. How about that? CJ is joining us for a quick chat. CJ, first of all, of course, congratulations on the W. Another one in the bag, and a few more to come, hopefully. Let's talk about this match, though, because I think a lot of us were very surprised to see how well Rad Esports was able to keep up with your guys' pace. They were coming in really aggressive, and that kind of seemed to put you guys on a back foot. Were there any changes or adjustments that you guys had to do in your playstyle in order to regain control and close out the win?
Not really. I think we were just playing bad, especially the first 2 maps. But I think after we lost Esperanza, I think we realized that we just gotta stop being nervous, and we're just the better players. So really just do whatever we want and we win, and we did. So
do whatever we want and we win. Well, you guys clearly wanted to play a lot of Winston. I feel like Kellen looks insanely good on the Winston. You guys really play well around that style. I was really impressed on, you know, Nambani. You guys kind of just dismantled the Malga comp, at least on first and second point for the most part. I thought that execution was really clean. Is the Winston comp something you guys focus on a lot compared to like other teams in the region, or do you think a lot of teams are going to be, you know, following your lead and using that Winston a little bit more?
I just think we're good generically at dive, because I think we have like all the players for it. Kellen's really good at Winston, Lenny's really good at Tracer, and then Bliss is really good at Brig. So I feel like all the pieces just come together. And I mean, we just play dive and the maps that are good. So like Nubani, Dorado, Route 66 sometimes. So I think it just fits our strengths very well.
Yeah, CJ, I'm curious to hear more about your experience playing for this SSG team this year so far. SSG being a partner team, of course. What's your experience been like, you know, playing with some of these players like Kellen, for example, but also Sugarfree and Seeker, who's, you know, an amazing damage duo. What has stage 1 been for you like so far?
I mean, stage 1's been kind of fun, but I think going into it, I was a little nervous because I feel like out of all the other players on the team, I was the only one that had to prove myself, I guess, in a way. But I've been playing with Seeker for, I think it's like the 3rd year I've been playing with him. I played with him last year in Nightmare, and then the year before that in Valiant. So playing with him is like basically the same, but yeah, I really like playing with Lenny. He's like really good, and he's actually like really chill and just a cool guy. So, I mean, the vibes are up always, and I'm just good. We're doing well.
Yeah, looking at the next week ahead of you, obviously you're one of the top teams we have. Do you feel like there's any big shakeups, given that Perks are going to be in the mix? Do you think there's a team that might get hurt by this? Perhaps a lack of flexibility?
I don't think like it's gonna shake up the standings that much. I think all the teams that are good are gonna stay good, but I think perks are a very interesting addition because, for example, like the perks, like the Ana perk, there's like the headshot one or the self nano one. So I think it's really interesting to see which perks people will choose. But I think eventually the perks will just be like they'll be like a set perk that you have to choose, or else you're just gonna lose your team the game. So.
Yeah, we discussed that already, how a few of them might be so very situational that we're probably not going to see much of them. But yeah, we're very excited to see the perks in the mix for next week. CJ, we're going to let you celebrate. Thank you so much for joining us for a quick chat, and best of luck in your matches next week.
All right. Thank you for having me.